Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the weekly MMA Cycles Market Update. Today is Wednesday, August 20th, 2025. I'm Gianni Di Poce, your host, and we have none other than Derek Panaia joining us today, MMA's options specialist. Derek, how's it going?
I'm doing great. I'm down here in Panama still, loving life down here. Nice warm weather year round.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah,
Things
I
are
hear
good.
that. Yeah, it's a pretty interesting meeting we have here. I know we had Puyan on last week. He's in the UK. I'm still here in Europe and Italy right now. So MMA all over the world. It's hot here, but been getting a lot of afternoon rain showers that makes it almost feel like fall at night. But anyways, we're not here to talk about the weather. We're here to talk about
Or
these
are we?
markets because interesting stuff going on. Let me go ahead and jump over to my screen here, and we can start off by looking at the Dow because we actually had a really interesting setup unfold in the Dow yesterday. The Dow actually made a new all-time high, whereas the S&P 500 futures and the NASDAQ 100 futures did not hit a new all-time high. So we're going into this really intense period of geocosmic activity, a very Uranian period starting off on the 24th. Sun square Uranus. Ray has been calling it the TUMD, the Trump Uranus basically disruption scenario. So what is your take on stocks right now? Obviously, we're at new highs, but we've been rallying for 4 months here. So what are you looking at in this market, Derek?
Yeah, I like how you mentioned the TUMD because I think we just entered the orb for it today. And, look at the market reaction to, I believe, Trump's comments about requesting the resignation of one of the Fed governors. So it seems TUMD is off to a rolling start here. Should be an interesting period for this week and maybe a few weeks into early September. We've been looking for I've been looking for the S&P to have some type of a correction here or even a consolidation, maybe even began this week. Friday is obviously going to probably be the key point this week when Powell speaks at Jackson Hole. But the lean is to buy the dip. We are looking for the market to continue upwards, maybe through a whole nother primary cycle, but definitely looking to buy a dip here.
Well, what's been interesting about this sell-off is that you've actually been seeing the NASDAQ bear the brunt of it, which is a flip from what we saw on the rally. Obviously, AI, tech, semiconductors, they've all done so well. But you've seen the NASDAQ suffer the most here. And that usually is, one of the signs that we're falling into an important cyclical bottom. But what do we have here in terms of geocosmics coming up? Uranus. Uranus rules tech. Uranus rules breakouts. I'm interested to see if we can actually break support or if we get an abrupt and sharp reversal back higher. But, you're talking about the Fed governor stuff. Yeah, I mean, that's a very Uranian thing too. Hey, you're fired. You're not going to lower interest rates. We're going to get someone in there that does. So, yeah, I still like the NASDAQ more. I know that you've been paying some attention to what's going on in bonds. I pull up TLT here, getting a little bit of a rally. What are you seeing in the interest rate market at the moment?
In the webinar we did last month, we took a long position via call spreads and the notes. We had a nice triple on that trade.
Oh, nice.
I've been looking for a pullback here, kind of looking at the 111 area. It might be a stretch. It seems to be finding support at 111 and a half. Short term, I'd like to buy a dip in the 111 and a quarter to maybe 110 and three quarters area,
Yeah,
maybe
that's
down
good
to
support.
110.23. Looking for, maybe a bust up through this 112 and a half. For the options webinar, I was in the ongoing group that we do for the options webinar. I've been warning about a huge call position at the 112 strike in September. Those expire Friday.
Oh,
So
wow,
maybe
really?
this market, is held back until then. Looking ahead to the October expiration, which is about 37 days out, it looks like 113 has that same setup. But it looks like, the option traders think this market can maybe test a leg higher here. Albeit a short one, I don't see us breaking out to new highs. That's not the objective we're looking for. But, back into 113, 113 and a half would be a conservative objective. Longer term, though, probably reverse, looking to get short this market.
Well, it's a really interesting dynamic that we have here in bonds because, we have the longer term bearish 18-year cycle. So that makes all the shorter cycles bearish by default. I mean, yeah, you'll have some, bearish 18-week cycles and whatnot. But a lot of it has to do with inflation, which has been relatively tame. And I was talking about this with Puyan last week as well. And I think that, right now you have Saturn and Neptune really close to one another in the sign of Aries. They're going to retrograde back into Pisces later this year. But I think once next year you get them start to separate, you're going to see inflation come back. I don't think the inflation story is over yet. And that's a really bad thing for bonds. So yeah, until then, you might see bonds rally in the next, couple of months, but in deeper into next year, I still become a little skeptical on that, especially with all the stable coin, Scott Bessent like funneling stable coin money into treasury type thing. We're not going to get into that here today, but really interesting stuff happening on that front. I think it's actually a good segue to get into some crypto. Are you watching any of these developments in Bitcoin and Ethereum? Ethereum's been the hot market, but we did get quite a bit of a dip here. Interesting time band for a major cycle bottom in both Bitcoin and Ethereum. So do you think that was it? Or do you think we have a little bit more pain to the downside?
I don't. And being a 40-year trader, a crypto never was something that I really had enough confidence to trade. So a few months ago, I did my first Bitcoin futures trade and did well. I bought a dip down around I think it was around 105, 104, and rode it up, into the teens there, made a very nice trade. Because I see something bigger happening here in Bitcoin. Because of so much interest in it, finally I caved and said, all right, we're going to start analyzing Bitcoin a little bit, but only Bitcoin. And I've been waiting for the end of August for some kind of dip. And I think we're seeing that dip now.
Yeah.
But more importantly, it's what to follow. And as you said, you got Uranus out there, and that can lead to some pretty big breakouts. And I know MMA has been talking about, longer term 150. The geocycles that I work on and have learned a lot from Puyan on, really point to something happening really big to the upside in September. And believe it or not, those geocycles that we worked on really have a strong correlation in Bitcoin. It's one of the most highly correlated markets to these cycles, copper and Bitcoin. So it's because of this that I followed it more. So I am looking to get long Bitcoin before the end of August. I want to be long Bitcoin for September. This could be the parabolic move that, maybe puts in a multi-year top.
I tend to be in the same camp as you. You mentioned copper. Let's take a look at that, because what a roller coaster we've had in copper as of late. You broke out to a new all-time high. You peaked, formed a crest, actually within an MMA CRD zone here on the 24th of July. It slammed back down lower. To me, this looks like a market that wants to keep going lower. Is that how you're playing this? And what else are you seeing in this base metal market?
I think we need to do a little horn tooting here. We were short for that big down.
That's amazing.
We had put on some put strategies in copper at the webinar, and we far exceeded our objectives. Obviously, it happened so fast that it was a phenomenal trade. It's been the biggest winner so far from the webinar, but it was, I think, about a 5 to 7x, depending on when you got out.
Beautiful.
So that was a really nice trade. But to answer your question, I've been looking for the market to consolidate, even move higher, kind of a classic bear flag formation.
Yeah,
but I see one more move lower in copper into probably that same September, early October period.
Well, in that time period, Derek, it's interesting. You actually have Venus starting to transit through the sign of Libra, Venus being the ruler of copper. So I'm not sure if the cycle lines up exactly with what I'm referencing there, but yeah, we do have Venus going into Libra right around that time. Let's take a look at some other metals, gold and silver. A little bit, I'll look at GLD and SLV so we can see some of the action here today. The market's still open. What do you think? Have we seen that intermediate term high in gold, or do we get one more pop before the real rug pull?
I'm leaning bearish in gold. I'm watching the 3,000 level. I think if we start closing below that, it would be an indication that we're not going into a primary bottom, but probably more likely looking for the 31-month cycle bottom in gold. And I think that could be a multi-month correction. How much of this consolidation you put in that correction, pointing back to the geocycles, we liked the formation here, which was a very rare double top. Very rarely do you see the cycles kind of make that double peak. And lo and behold, that's what happened in gold so far. We went back to that 35.10 area. We broke through it for a few hours, maybe got $20 or $25 above it, and then turned right back down, could not close up there, and have since come off greatly. So I think 3,000 is key now. But we are in put spreads for gold, and the lean is bearish. And if 3,300 breaks, I'm looking for 32, and longer term, maybe even under 3,000. But longer term, that would be a very, very nice buying opportunity.
How about silver? Silver's up a little bit more than gold today. Do you think we can get one more run to maybe even new all-time highs in silver before we see a substantial correction?
Silver I don't follow as closely. The last time I analyzed silver, it was following gold pretty closely. So I think, silver maybe goes back to test at least 36 or 35. And then from there, silver can just turn around and make new highs at any given moment. It's a wild market. And it's a little thin for options. That's why I tend not to follow it as much. But I think silver would have another buying opportunity should a dip occur like we're looking for in gold.
All right. All right. Last market I want to look at with you, Derek, is crude oil. Seeing a little bit of a bounce here today. We talked about this in depth with Puyan last week as well, but I'm interested to see and hear your insights because, I mentioned that Saturn and Neptune conjunction in Aries. I think once they separate, crude oil will have its moment. You've seen a lot of like alternative energy sectors, nuclear, solar stocks that even come back alive in the last couple of weeks. But crude oil really has not been able to sustain any sort of rally. So are there any geocosmics or cycles that you're watching or that could point towards a new bull market taking hold? Or do you think we get one more rug pull before we can start a new bull market?
Yeah, in a perfect world, I would expect crude to start looking for a bottom mid-September. Maybe a rally back up to the 67-ish area. Ideally, I would love to see crude either consolidating into a low or making, a low into the end of the Neptune retrograde, which I believe is on 12/10. I like that period. I mean, that's a seasonal low time frame. You get the Neptune, and there's some other cycles that are pointing to that as a possible low. So that might be an area, should the charts be looking right then, for a longer term bullish investment in crude oil.
I'm with you. I think when it does turn, historically, Neptune going through fire signs has been pretty inflationary, and no other market drives inflation expectations or just inflation in general than crude oil. And I don't think that's changing anytime soon. So.
Yeah, and what you had alluded to earlier when we were talking about notes was this inflationary, and maybe December is when the inflation starts kicking back in.
Yeah,
it's certainly a time frame to be watching for that.
Very good. Well, Derek, we covered a lot here, so thank you so much for joining me. When will your next options webinar be here with MMA?
Look for the next option webinar in the November timeframe. We haven't locked down a date yet, but it's looking like November is the next critical time period for another options webinar.
And viewers can also get more frequent updates from your options trades as well, correct?
Yeah, we started offering a few webinars ago. We've started offering what we're calling the Options Plus package, whereas you'll join a Discord server group, which is like a group chat, except there's only one-way messages going in there from myself and sometimes Ray. And basically, anytime there's something significant happening in any of the markets that we're trading, I'll put up posts there. Group subscribers can also ask questions directly about trading in general or one of the trades we have on or the markets we're watching too.
Fantastic. Well, as you know, Derek, we are launching MMTA 4 in about a month from now on September 27th. You were a part of MMTA 3, but I know you were in the MMA ecosystem for an even longer time period. So, what was your experience like in MMTA? I mean, I know that you have the trading results that I think speak for themselves, but what can you share to some of our viewers here today about MMTA?
Well, as I said earlier, I've been trading for 40 years, and I've been following MMA for at least 20 of those years. It's been a really long time that I followed Ray, his books and his newsletters, and there's a lot in those newsletters. You guys cover a lot of information, and even after 20 years, I have to admit there was a few parts of it I never understood. I knew what you guys were saying, but how this information, this analysis derived, I was always curious about that. So I took MMTA 3 to learn the full MMA methodology system. And it was eye-opening. I don't think there's a trader out there with either a lot of experience like I have or a newer trader that is not going to reap a ton of benefit from MMTA. And to kick it off, I'll be part of MMTA 4, but I'll be on the other side of the desk this time. But the discussions we have after class every week, that alone was gold. It was like, with your analysis, with Ray's analysis, and all the other, teachers in there. It's just a wealth of information. I really look forward to the end of class every time. By then I have my trading plan for the week, but I needed a confirmation. Did I miss something? What is a different group of analysts thinking about these same markets? And it did nothing but help. So it's looking forward to being a part of this for another 2 years, and wholeheartedly recommend it to anybody that's a trader.
Well, we're very excited to have you join us in the faculty this time, Derek. So that's all we had for this week, everyone. Derek, thanks again for joining me. Just one brief announcement. We did just publish Vipka Held's monthly tech report, so you can find out all the details and what Vipka is looking at in this market, specifically within tech. That report can be found at www.mmAcycles.com, as well as more information on MMTA, the Merriman Market Timing Academy, which starts on the 27th of September. So that's all we had for today, everyone. Please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. We always have exciting guests and great market analysis. Derek, thanks again for joining me today.
Gianni, as always, pleasure being here.
Thank you. Talk to you soon.